I don't understand why it's so difficult to confirm an appointment.
No, I'm so sorry, Miranda. I actually did confirm last
Details of
night.
your incompetence.
So the purpose of showing you this was that the client for which we were working was, okay, this is a bit exaggerated, but probably a 60% of what this character is shown as, that she would have very short attention span. You have to be very precise in what you want to say to her. You have to be absolutely to the point, no beating around the bush, and that's it. So the point I'm trying to make is that we as UX people are under tremendous pressure. It's just, I want to draw a simile from real life, that we're trying to please our in-laws. Now, it's like a girl getting married in an arranged marriage. Okay, you don't know about anything about the family. Going there, you have to learn their ways. You have to understand those people. You have to please them. You have to make your way. You have to learn their ways of, So it's a total, what do you say, mind game. How is this person going to react? Should I do this? Should I do that? What way should I behave? And things like that, right? So I have been doing this for the past 18 years, pleasing various in-laws, and so I'm mostly referring to the service industry, because there you hop from one project to the other. It's not like product industry where it's a love marriage. You have good amount of time to be with each other, understand, and decide whether things are going to work or not, right? But here it's totally the other way, and that's what makes it interesting. Hopping from one project to the other, learning new things, meeting new people, understanding their ways of perception of business and UX. So the next 45 minutes or so, what we are going to do is, I'm going to tell you the success story that we tell the outside world. But then the second point is more interesting, which is the story behind the scene, which is the main focus of today's. And we end with this presentation with a concept called as perpetual design, which I've kind of derived out of my experience. I'll explain when we get there. And then if you have any questions, of course. So let's jump into it. So what this project was, okay? So it was a healthcare, the domain was healthcare. The client was a product company which had a tool to manage a clinic, right? So they used to call it as PMS, not in this context, practice management system. Okay, so practice is a clinic or a medical practice that way. So what they did was that they actually bought this tool from a doctor. He had an assistant who built this tool for his clinic only. Somebody saw the potential in that tool, and they bought it from that particular doctor. And then the task was to redesign and enhance the experience, because it was just pertaining to one single practice, one single person who was going to operate that. That's where he came in. So a quick familiarization with what the system did, right? Uh, it managed patient information like their history and things like that. It had a way to manage the appointment. It had a way to deal with new leads which are coming in from online or various channels, basically by referrals or online or through a website, through a survey or whatever it is. They had a module which was, I mean, we called it marketing, but they called it plan, which was like a reach out program embedded into that very tool, which could actually help the practice convert a lead into a patient, okay, a business lead into a patient. Right? It had a way to also measure the conversion rate. A, a, a query that came in, how long did it take to convert that query into a actual patient? Right? Of course, then there were modules like financials, referrals, and I guess sorry for that, but so that was roughly the modules of that particular product. Okay, so we kind of try to lay them as the basic building blocks of that particular application. So this is nothing but what we just saw in the previous slide. But now we see this from the system perspective, like various modules that we need to address, we need to design, we need to make it more meaningful uh, uh, for the consumers of this product, because this was going to be sold various practices in US. So the first thing to start with was to understand what it does, right? And what best way other than to speak to various stakeholders, right? So the first thing was, and again, nothing new in this. In this scenario, we had the marketing team, internal teams who are working on the product actually training. We had actual user interviews. So basically, this client of ours had already sold subscriptions of this product to a few practices, and they were getting feedback. They were having they were collecting the pain points. So we actually had to talk to the doctors, the practice managers at the doctor's clinic, the nurses, and various staff who was responsible to use this, who was actually supposed to use this product. Right? They had a product team which was very loosely bound, but it helped us gain the entire intent or the way the product behaved from various angles, right? From the inside as well as the outside users of that product. To just give you in a nutshell what the state of that product was when we pitched in, is that this is the point where you start. This is where you want to go. You have these red blocks. These are, let's say, different information, or blocks of information, and there was no clear way to navigate to reach home, right? On the way, you would, hit this particular information. You would go here, and if you see here, there is the information is there, but it's not consumed. There is no connect here. You can, I don't know if you're able to see, there are small arrows which actually show the connect. But we found out that the modules were there. A person is supposed to use the information, consume the information, but he was not, because it's too complicated. I don't understand it, how to use it. Just keeping the entire steps, in a particular task. What we wanted is that, make it a simple approach where, just no, I won't give the example of DMart, but a simple departmental store where you have an aisle, you know where you want to go, you can see your target at all time, and in the branches you just pick things, put it in your cart, head towards home, because you know where you want to go, and everything that you need is either on this side or that side. right? So I mean, metaphorically speaking, that's what we wanted to do, iron out basically the entire app, making the task flows, the workflows simple as possible. So quickly now jumping into a few screenshots. This was their existing system. This was supposed to be the dashboard, but if you see, things like messages, inbox, they were like hardly used. The moment a user logged into the system, hardly any time was spent on this, and they right away jumped into patient information or marketing plan information or reports and stuff like that. So actually, there was no relevance to the dashboard here. So now what I'm going to do is I'll show you the before shot. I'll show you the wireframes that we did. Everybody understand wireframes, right? So the wireframe, and then the actual look and feel, the visual design, how it's supposed to look as a finished product. So this was the dashboard. What we did was just made it relevant to the doctor, who is the highest authority at the clinic or at the practice. And I mean, there was no big deal of in discovering these things, because when we spoke to the doctors, when we spoke to the practice manager, every day I would want to know what my business was, just like what happens here, right? Every day I would want to know how many leads did I convert from leads to a patient, right? So those kind of information, we directly got it to the surface. This is how the finished product looked like. This is like the visual design, right? We got the conversion rate right up front, because then it's easy. I don't have to go down and fetch a report buried 6 clicks down the information structure. It's just there because I know what my user wants. We spoke to these guys, right? And it's like an open book exam. They tell you what they want, and you just need to provide it in the best way possible. So next module was like this is a list of new leads, right? But then I don't know what am I supposed to do with this as a novice user, as a first time user. You can't tell what actions I can take on this piece of content. What we did is that we laid out those leads into card format, and if you see, these are the primary actions that you can take on a particular lead. Either you can add it as a patient, or you can trash it. Then we also have these archive and trash sections where you can, let's say I delete it today, but I want to now again fetch it after a couple of weeks. I can do that, right? So this is a wireframe. This is the finished product. Now, if you see, there are these. Everyone is aware of these badges, right? Everyone uses a mobile. You know the notifications. That tells you that you have to attend to 18 leads that have come today, or you have to attend. There's some. So I'll explain what that is. But all these red dots will indicate what you are supposed to do. So we also came up with a funny, line. We called it, make it zero to be a hero. So what the doctor wants is that he wants his leads turned into patients maximum. He wants the practice manager to manage his appointments and bring the system up to speed as per whatever happened for that particular day in the clinic, and things like that. So if there is any communication that has to be attended, task delegation and things like that. So I, as a user, don't have to hunt where do I go. I know I have to attend these 3 red dots. So just make it zero to be a hero. There's an incentive involved in it. A little bit of gamification, a little bit of commission that that the staff gets. So that was a simple way to bring that on. Of course, we did not use it in the product. This was just for the client to make them understand how we, what our approach is. Now, this was the report module. Now, I have a basic problem with reports that I've seen in various applications, that moment you land on a report module or a screen, you have around 1700 fields to fill up before you actually fetch the information. Right? I agree, that's fine. But why can't we build a little bit of intelligence into the system and give him a half-baked something from which he can, a user can take it further, or can narrow down onto a particular information, whatever he's looking for. So we wanted to show information rather than showing him the field, right? So you see the wireframe, again, the card approach here, you have the conversion summary. When was it generated? Whatever last date that it was, report schedule, when is it supposed to run? So we had automation in that. Again, that is upfront shown. You have the primary actions laid out clearly. So you don't, there is, what we are trying to do is reduce the learning curve for a user, be it a novice user or repeat user. Right? So this basically takes care of both. You also could lay it out in card or a list format. People are used to see things in Excel or in a list format. We had that as well, right? This is how it looked in the finished version of it, report module. So there were around 80 screens across 7 modules, around 120 visual design screens were created and all that, and it was nicely executed, nicely delivered, and that's the success story that we tell the world, right? Now let's see what happens, or rather what happened behind the scene, behind the success story, what all things the UX team had to do, not just the UX team, but the entire team who was responsible to build this product. So in the blue corner, we had 3 UX people, the offshore development team, and the US based or the on-site based sales and marketing team, right? In the red corner, we had what we just saw in the movie clip, the VP of marketing, we had the director of Google marketing, a nice guy. So I kind of relate these personas to movies, because I mean, we have been seeing movies since our childhood, and we, if you observe the director or the story writer, they're doing nothing but building persona. They are giving the characteristic to a human being, and that is not different or very different from what we need to understand here. So this was a really nice guy with whom we were interacting on a daily basis. This person would just keep a watch from 60,000 feet probably. We had the SME team, the training and marketing team, the tech team, and now this was a very different person to deal with. The creator of the product. Remember, I told you that this product was developed by a single person for a single practice. So this client of ours hired that guy himself, who had actually written the first code for that particular product. So we had the creator sitting with us, and he was absolutely like a nerd. Tall guy, thin guy, dark framed glasses, nose like a very big nose, and he used to stutter. So he was really a nerd, and I'm able to tell you this because now, looking at it from a third-party perspective, I see all these things in these kind of persona or relation. While we were in the thick of it, nothing of this came to my mind. Okay. So this was the team, and so just to quickly depict it in a pictorial way. So this is us. This is the technical team offshore. You had the UX team and the on-site sales team. They had interacted with the client. They cooked up something, and they said, okay, we'll do it for you, right? And then the journey started. So the kickoff meetings, right from here, before we traveled on site, what the current state is, where do we want to go, who is who all are involved from the clients, and right. So we were trying to connect the dots. Uh, what is to be done? Who is responsible for what? Who is to be whose word is to be taken as the final word? Who is the decision maker, right? So there was absolutely no visibility for us to understand that while we were offshore. So we were just trying to connect the dots here. And what was the action plan? The action plan was to launch 3 UX guys, really launch on site, carry out the discovery phase, talk out a plan of action, strategize and bringing solutioning while we were on site, and come back and continue the solutioning part, right? So that was the plan of action. Now, this is a part, get you one of those envelopes. So, for me, I was actually pulled up at the 11th hour because a person who was supposed to travel had some medical emergency, and in place of him, I was roping. So on a Friday, I got a call that I was supposed to fly on Monday, and the project was a fixed bid based on some early briefing that happened during those within those teams that I just showed earlier. There was an engineering team who was near completion for the code part. So the old version of the application, it was being the code was being refactored, revamped, right? And they were almost done with it. And at that stage, we were brought in to do some UX green. So that was the first shock that I had to suffer. And this was my reaction, that whatever I told you since the beginning of behind the story, I had no clue of this. I absolutely had no clue what has happened, what has been promised, who's the client, what am I supposed to do, what is the product. Had no clue, because from Friday to Monday, I was more busy in getting all the permissions and travel requests and everything, right? So everything was left to the team to go there and find out what's the best possible thing you can do. So now we are on the other side, wheels down, right? We had to work out between ourselves what and how are we going to take this further. So the safest way in a UX is to start with knowledge, data gathering, walkthroughs of the existing system, trying to understand what the product does. So exactly that is what we did. Met the marketing and the training team. So we had like day-long sessions with these guys, with the application in front of us. They were trying to, now here is where the people factor comes in, that they have a total different psyche. We were doing it for the first time, a project in this particular domain. When they are giving you the information, they don't understand what level you are at, right, in understanding what they do. They have been told by their seniors that, okay, these are the people who are going to do the UX. You're supposed to tell them what the product does. But what points should be stressed, emphasized? It's a people thing, right? I mean, you cannot expect everybody to be perfect at that particular time. So we started our work. We were recording our interviews with the user, taking notes. We had like I don't know how many lines of notepad with just rapid typing. And at night we used to go back to the hotel, read it again, make points, categorize those feedback, and then the next thing was like start identifying what the problem is. So I don't want to get into the more technical thing, but here is that in-law wala funda coming in again, that you are on their turf. you're trying to learn their business from them, right? You are kind of nitpicking, or like rather trying to find out problems in their product, and you want them to like you. You don't know them as people, right? It is a tremendously important thing to that know your client as a person, because your entire approach, your entire aggression, or the way you attitude depends on how you are perceived by that guy, right? So they don't know you as people, of course, and you want them to listen to you, and you want them to pay you too. And you guys know this character, right? Perfect. So, I mean, it's asking too much out of the client. I mean, even as a third person, I really feel that it's too much to expect within that 4 or 5 weeks that we are supposed to interact with them, right? But anyways, that's the way it is. So software 2. So we were doing our stuff. We were strategizing our solution. We were nicely laying out things to be presented to the client. So now what happens is we are in a presentation. The client is sitting in front of us. We are presenting our solution strategy to the client, and we realize that no, the person is not able to relate. We were absolutely shocked. What had happened was that there were two sides of the product: practice management and marketing. Now, the unique selling point, the USP, right? The USP of the product was this part, and for almost 2.5 or 3 weeks, we were focusing on this part. And whatever solution we had, the weightage, I mean, we had this, but the weightage from the user perspective was totally inclined towards the practice management. And a person who was ex-Google, ex-LinkedIn was one of the architects there, and he pointed that out, that guys, no, I don't see this. And it was a wake-up call for us. Because right in the presentation, if you've spent 3 weeks, and if the client is saying that we are not I'm not seeing what I want to see, then it's you're in a fix. So street smartness was what was required. We had another challenges with the internal team, because obviously the technical team who had the code ready, they wanted to know how much UX is going to impact their APIs and whatever you call that, right? Because is it going to impact heavily? Are we going to drastically change the product? Are we going to bring in the experience factor more? And how are they going to cope with whatever they have done so far and whatever that delta would be? So during the presentation, this was our attitude in front of the client. Yo, we understand you well, don't worry. But the inside face was like this. So we had to go back to the board, had to cancel our Vegas trip, but over the weekend, and had to come up with a strategy to turn around the weightage between the practice management and marketing. So what we did was, on the left hand side, if you see, you have entire thing about the appointments of the patient, right? And then you have Lead Central and all that. There's no marketing as such on this particular screen. You have lead, you can take actions, but then what if a lead is sitting there for more than a week? me as a practice manager need to do something because my commission depends on it. There's an incentive, but what do I have proper tool to reach out to those patients which are not converted yet? So what we first did is that we put out a marketing tab here right away. We kind of shoved the appointment and all that management stuff. It was on demand. It was available there, but it was on demand. And all you could see is the lead center, that is the leads coming in, and the marketing as the first two main tabs, right? Second thing we did was, now this is the crux of it. The system had a hell lot of information about their patient sitting in the database and not being utilized. For example, the system knew what this patient had come in the clinic for, what should be the follow-up treatment for that, is there any cross-selling that can be done, is there any upselling that can be done, and it would have that information. It had that information, but it was not used. So this entire module, this was not existing in their current product. The system intelligently tells you that for this particular treatment, you have one eligible patient. Okay. For this particular treatment, you have two eligible patients. What do you want to do with them? Do you want to trigger a reach out program? You click on that, and the system would automate by sending out these promotion materials, educational materials about that particular treatment, and would start following up automatically. There was algorithms which said, okay, 1 week no reply, push this, an email and a phone call. So those tasks will be generated for the practice manager. 2 weeks no response, send 2 mails and a follow up twice in a week. So these action points would be generated for a practice manager through this. And if you see that particular, so that's a plan, right? You are trying to deploy a reach out plan, and the conversion rate of that plan is the health of that plan is directly given here. So this was like buried around 8 clicks into this old system, which we kind of brought it to the surface. So we call it bringing action to the surface. And you could actually, just set things in motion. And we did not do the automation part. It was already there in the system. We just figured out a way how those things can be triggered, the automation can be triggered. Now, so there was a lot of other stuff that we did within that weekend, and then we had the main challenge, the moment of truth, because now we're going to present this to the big boss, right? So it was really filmy. I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate to use that word here, but it was. We had 8.5 minutes in her cabin. I mean, and it was not allocated. It was just say, okay, guys, come on, show me what you have. And whatever effort we did in 6 weeks, we just got that much of time to show it to her. And we got a good amount of bashing. This doesn't work. I don't like this. What is this? What am I supposed to do with this? It's very cluttered. So obviously, it was a feedback for UX designer. So out of her cabin, and we thought that we had lost it. So you guys remember the nice guy I was mentioning, the second? So he was there with us in the cabin. We come out of the cabin and we are like sweating like just the way I am right now. And he says, that went well. I was like, what? So absolutely it was filmy. So he said that the very fact that she pointed out at things, that means she likes it. Okay. So he tells us that, guys, you have done a good job. the very fact that she responded to what you did tells that she accepts this. Okay? So I was learning new definitions of the feedback. So, so this ended our on-site stay. Now it was time to come back and start things over here, right? So we came back, deployed a team to start the execution, as in the UX team, of course, the front-end developers, the UI technology guys. But what happened was that at the same time, uh, the modules underwent, a lot of changes. As in, we were having huge sessions with the clients, discussing what we had already approved while we were on site, and we were kind of, wasting our time in doing a lot of discussions which was already finalized. The most uh, hampering thing was that we had a long session with our internal team to explain them this new experience, which actually brought up a lot of heat because their code was going to be refactored by a huge margin. But then, when you ask us to enhance experience, it's difficult to be constrained under or to work in a limitation and be creative enough to give you a good experience. So, what happened, or rather, what we did was quickly, gaining our mojo. We kind of set up a mesh of meetings, which was like in the morning have a walkthrough meeting for the new modules, for the new stuff that we would create here. In the evening, we would have an approval meeting, right? So in the walkthrough meetings, there are no decisions. There is no time wasted in finalizing things. In approval meetings, there are no discussions on can we do this, can we do that, can we try out this way. No, so we kind of got hold of the situation, and we said that that if we have to get something good out there, so we need to stick to these rules, right? And we kind of delegated the accountability on the client's end that okay, you need to tell us if this is not finalized by this particular date, we will be overshooting our deadline. So things started shaping up, but then what happened? Shockwave 3. So, uh, so there were like these kind of disputes. Okay, do you want the experience versus how much time it's going to take versus the technology it demands to get that experience, time to market versus do we have the budget to deploy more resources without charging the clients, reducing our profit margins and things like that, right? So then typical management approach kicked in and say let's phase out. Let's phase it, phase the development. But I cannot be creative phase wise, right? The creative inputs or the experience design can't wait for a phase to finish. I can't be 78.9% creative for this sprint and then be 120% creative in the next sprint. It doesn't work that way. So, we had a lot of convincing to do. So, and now the क्या बोलते उसको दुष्पात तेरा हुआ. So, extending the budget for the value add was not possible. So if you remember, we added 2 new modules into the product, right? But then the client said that I didn't ask for it. I appreciate the value you add. It's a fixed bid. I cannot fix in my budget. So again, there were hurdles from all the directions. So to conclude that, this entire thing was that we were in a pickle. So that's why the title, Recipe for a Pickle. So here's the recipe for a pickle, I would say. Be ready for sarcasm. Now we are going to see some points which, again, sarcastically, which actually contribute as a recipe for the pickle. Yeah? So the first thing to do is get the code ready before the UX design. Do not involve UX guys. You can handle it separately. Get the code first. Agree on a fixed bid. Though you don't have the depth of what the product is, Bindas. There was no product manager or a PA at the client's end, and he time and again requested to have that position so that he would be responsible for deciding, taking decisions, and uh, the reason for those long meetings and that mesh of meetings that we set up was this. Definitely do the ideation and implementation parallelly. Okay, that's again something which will add to the pickle. Now this is for the UX team. Take up additional roles and responsibilities than what you're supposed to. Right? Requirement freezing. I need to contribute in that. Feature finalizing, defining user stories for the dev team. Do take up these responsibilities. And then after all this, you have to invest time in justifying your decisions, finding out those old emails, who said yes and who said no, and defending yourself. At the end of it, I thought that we would be better lawyers than designers. So, but I mean, that's the way it is. And you're done. So you have a pickle there. Now, after this, there are a few, hardly 6, 7 slides. As I said, that perpetual design, what I mentioned in the beginning. So, as a designer, or probably as a passionate worker, you need to convince yourself when to let go. You can't try to achieve precision at the cost of vision. And that happens with a person who has a designer cycle, who wants to be perfect every time. If you remember Sheldon, there was an episode where Penny, Amy did that, and Sheldon completed that third penny. That's a closure that we want, right? So I had to devise a mechanism which would convince me or anyone in the stakeholders how things or how business works. So everyone is aware of perpetual motion, right? The engineering term. Something that is set into motion by an initial push or an energy, it should continue doing that without any external forces. So just the way it is impossible, similarly, a perfect solution, a design solution, is impossible. It is perpetual. So what you have here is the circle represents a perfect design solution, right? On all the axes: design, time, technology, budget, business, scope, resources, research. So again, there are a lot of factors, but I'm just trying to make a point here. So I've considered these factors. The orange dot you see is the intensity of that particular force towards the perfect solution. So if my resources are here, that means they are favorable to achieve this particular perfect solution. If research, this is not good, this is good. So the farther you move from the center, it's not favorable to a perfect solution, right? So you start at a particular stage. A project starts at a particular given stage where the scope is pretty much in favor, the resources are maybe somewhere in the middle, research is not pretty much in favor, the business is very favorable, the budget is not, technology and blah blah blah. You get the point what I'm trying to say here, right? So there is a distorted circle with which you start. Now what happens is, as you proceed, I move in the research into favorable, right? The budget goes unfavorable. Business is still okay. Technology goes away. Time increases. And a push in design effort, right? So now what happens? So you're able to see the gray, no? That shows you the previous stage. No? Now push in resources, push in design, right? I push in budget. Business is sad. Business is not happy with it, right? Time is okay, design is okay. Technology also, we have in a favorable way. So every time, it's have you ever tried to catch a balloon, a half-filled balloon, and tried to squeeze it? It will slip from your gaps, the gaps, right? You try to squeeze in and something will pop out. It's exactly the way it happens here. You try to squeeze in something and some axis will go for a toss. So I had to come up with this to convince myself that after a given point, I have to let go. It's the business who takes the decision. But I will not ever stop being a designer. I will not stop trying to achieve precision. I will not deviate from my way of working. But I have to be practical enough to, at some certain point of time, to let go and let the business drive it. So coming back to our case study, there was a silver lining to conclude with. Okay, the client appreciated UX effort. They wanted to work with us for the next project. So the moment we came out of the cabin, that's what we heard from someone else. That okay, we will get in touch with your sales team for a particular project, and so it was good. And our client actually sold a good amount of units in their roadshow, which was targeted early this year, right? There is a hand, right? We had a nice time on site with the client and amongst ourselves. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this session. Any questions? Or do I jump to this part of the? Go ahead. It is.